Hey, welcome to the Albert Tate podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. This is a podcast all about kingdom conversations that will inspire, encourage, and hopefully challenge your soul, help you think a little bit, cry a little bit, pray a little bit, laugh a little bit. It's going to be an amazing time as we journey together. So thank you for subscribing. Tell your friends about it, share it. Listen, we're going to have a great time with this podcast. My guest this week is amazing. I asked him a question because the theme this season is all about moments that shaped us. And how it impacted our lives. And the topic for this week is disappointment. How disappointment shapes you, how you respond to it, how you overcome it, and kind of the implications thereafter. I couldn't think of a better person to talk to this about. It may shock you, but I talked to Terrell Owens, one of the greatest wide receivers of our time. We get into some of the stuff about the Hall of Fame. We get into stuff about football, but it's all driven by how disappointment shaped him and how he responded. I'm telling you, get your notepad, take some notes. It's going to encourage you and challenge you. Here's my conversation with Terrell Owens.
Stadia has had the honor of helping hundreds of great leaders start new churches. We have a passionate desire to make sure that every child on the planet can experience the overwhelming love of Jesus Christ through the local church. This vision compels us to ask one very important question. Who's next? Who are the leaders that God is raising up to plant new churches? Who are the leaders that will answer the call to say, I'll follow, I'll raise up this generation, the next generation to know Jesus Christ and to change the world forever? Are you ready to start your church planting journey? Perhaps you know someone who is. Stadia is ready to help, and we'll be with you every step of the way, because we won't stop until every child has a church.
Well, we've got T.O. in the building. Man, dude, thanks for doing this, bro.
No, thanks for having me.
So good to have you on the show, have a little conversation.
Got some lotion on there.
Well, the camera can't see that. The camera can't see the lotion. Everybody can't afford to get all the bells and whistles. Like, what is this on your feet? We ain't got a shot. Take one of those shoes off. Let's get it in the camera. Can we get
these
it
are my Hall of Fame slippers that this guy from Instagram that followed me, he made for me. So this is one.
Get your popcorn ready. Pro Football Hall of Fame Owens.
Yeah. And
then got class of 2018. Yeah. Oh, check that out.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right, let's get them back on you, Doctor. It's a little aroma coming out of them. You got to put socks. Got to put socks on with those things, Doc.
That's all right.
Man, so with this podcast, every episode, the whole season is talking about moments that shaped you. And this particular one, although we're going to talk about a lot of other different things, because you got a few things going on, but I want to talk about a moment that shaped you. In each week, we have a different theme. The theme that I want to talk about with you, though, is disappointment. And I want to talk about a moment. Obviously, probably there's several disappointments that's happened in your life, but I want to talk about the disappointment that you feel like shaped you significantly, and after that, you were no longer the same, and how you learned from it, how you grew from it. But let's go to that moment where disappointment really shaped you.
Oh, wow. Man, I've had so many. I think, starting out, as a preteen, around between the ages of 10 and 12, that was when I found out who my dad was. Little did I know that my dad lived right across the street from me. I was raised by my grandmother and my mom, and so my mom was married, and the oldest of my two sisters. All along from, like I said, from as long as I could remember, I thought her dad was my dad. And so for whatever reason, my mom chose not to disclose any of that information to me until obviously a later date. And so,
how did you find out that the guy that you thought was your dad wasn't actually your dad?
It wasn't that I didn't find out he was my dad. I ended up finding out who my dad was because living in the neighborhood, obviously there was, he was married at the time.
So he lived across the street, was
street,
married, and
4
your mom
kids.
is married,
Right.
4 kids.
He had 4 girls, and so again, just like I had a couple of fellas in the neighborhood, we all played, and again, out playing games in the yard, and being a preteen, you start to see girls, and you start to like girls or what have you, and so.
And he had 4 of them.
4 of them in the neighborhood, and the odds are obviously I was going to like somebody, so. I started liking one of my sisters, and so it got to be like a little tease that, Terrell likes Lisa. That was one of my sisters, and so it got back to my dad that I was liking Lisa, and so that was when, he pulled me to the side and, had that discussion, and he basically said that, you can't like Lisa, and so me, being an adolescent, I'm like, why? He goes, Lisa's your sister. And so that was, how things kind of unfolded from there. And so, unbeknownst to me, I don't know if his wife knew about him having a son at that time. So it got to a point to where I think she had some resentment. She treated me a certain way when I started to come over, and so my grandmother got involved, and so it got to be a little testy. And so being in the South, my grandmother, she was disciplinarian. She didn't take any stuff, and so she saw that I started to have some issues, going over there, and she started to have some issues of me being at the house, and so it got to a point to where my grandmother basically had to stand up and say, it's not my fault that I'm here in the world. If you need to address anybody, you need to address.
So she said that to your dad?
And her.
And her. So she went over and confronted them.
Right. So there was a point in time where it had to be discussed. And
Grandmama said, I'm ready to deal with this.
Right. And so my grandmother is the one who raised me.
Wow.
She passed in 2012 to Alzheimer's. And so everything that I've done, throughout the course of my career, she's been pretty much, the backbone and my inspiration.
Terrell, tell me about your relationship with your mom in the midst of that. And how you've navigated that dynamic over the years.
Well, I didn't really understand everything that was going on. I didn't understand, that she had me with someone else. He was married. She was working a number of jobs, just to make ends meet.
Yeah.
I didn't really understand why I would stay with my grandmother most of the time, and then I would stay with her some parts of the time. And
then, bro, you're like 11, 12 years old?
Yep.
So you can't
comprehend
I
can't comprehend any of this. And so it wasn't until probably like about, I think it was 2014, I did Iyanla Vanzant's show called Fix My Life. And I was 39 at the time, and that was the first time that I had ever seen my mom and my dad sit longer than, be in the same room like longer than 3 or 4 minutes.
Wow.
So it was an emotional, pretty much roller coaster.
Iyanla Vanzant, Doc, don't play.
Yeah, she goes in, she digs in, and I think they reached out to me based on, again, my career, understanding who I had become. There was a lot of, I guess, perceptions on who I was. Based on some of the antics and how I celebrated and things that day, and basically how people perceived me. Outside of football, based on what I did.
So coming out of, what's the biggest takeaway that you learned about T.O. coming out of the interview in that whole time with your mom and dad in Iyanla? What did you walk away as a 39-year-old knowing for sure that you didn't know before?
That's a good question. There was a lot of questions that were answered, that I always thought of but never really communicated to my mom, and I think those were questions that were asked of them as well, as to why they didn't, do certain things at certain times. And, sometimes I had to take myself and try to put myself in my mom's shoes at 16 or 17 years old, having a kid, with an older man who's married that has an already made family. And we weren't a communicative type of family.
Yeah.
There wasn't a lot of affection shown in the household. Growing up in the South, and I know you've referenced it a lot of times, sometimes in your sermons. It's a bit different in the South.
In the South,
as far as,
I grew up in Mississippi. You grew up in Alabama.
right,
Yeah.
as far as how love is shown, and so if you're not in that environment, you grow up in that environment where love and affection is shown on an everyday basis, then you're going to tend not to be able to show that.
Yeah.
As far as me, I'm concerned, in my everyday life,
Yeah.
because it wasn't shown to me. But I knew, looking back on it, she had some what was called tough love.
Yeah.
I understood that she loved me. She never said "I love you." I never heard her say "I love you," while she was alive. But I knew that she did love me.
Wow.
Based on kind of the things that we went through.
So you never heard your grandmother say "I love you"?
No, never heard it.
Wow.
But
what
I
about
knew
But you knew she did. Obviously, she did. There's no way she stands up for you, covers you, provides for you, and protects you if she doesn't love you.
And I think you talk about cycles, and obviously I was raised based on how she was raised.
Right.
She had a tough upbringing.
Yeah.
Picking cotton. Obviously going through a lot of things in the South, and so she was a disciplinarian. Kind of if you lived under her roof. You
follow her rules,
exactly,
Reverend. I know that's life.
Right,
yeah.
exactly.
But she gave you what was given to her,
right?
And she can't give you anything that she didn't have. So she gave you the tools that she had.
Exactly.
So you go from being in a house where probably your primary caregiver, you never heard her say "I love you," to standing in front of tens of thousands of people in the stadium, screaming your name.
Right, and she never. My grandmother didn't want me to play sports because she felt like that was a way of me getting in trouble. She felt like that was a way, I've heard you say it, of getting into devilment.
Right.
And so she didn't allow that. If you weren't in her eyesight, you were doing something wrong.
Yeah.
And so it took my mom some convincing
to let you get out
to let me play sports.
Yeah.
And so I got to play a little bit of Little League baseball and basketball and things of that nature.
Terrell, when did you realize that you were good at it?
I never really, I didn't realize I was good at it until probably, maybe sometime in my college, maybe my second year in college.
Really?
Yeah. But let me go back to, I know we all over the place, but you mentioned disappointment. So
yes,
disappointment, there were times, obviously, Christmas came around, and so when I started to, when I figured out who my dad was, like I said, my mom, worked odd jobs. She was a seamstress, so she did that on the side to make ends meet. We lived in a town called Alexander City, Alabama, where Russell Corporation was located, and Russell Corporation was a textile company where it made, at that point in time, they made all the jerseys from baseball, basketball, NFL, college, or what have you. I mean, they had several different divisions in our town where pretty much 80 to 90% of the town worked. Yeah. And so come Christmas time, you want things or what have you. And so there were things where I wanted for Christmas, and then I asked my mom for certain things, my grandmother for certain things, and then I would ask my dad for certain things. And even, school year, you want clothes and shoes, and, they couldn't afford everything. So I would ask, I kind of go ask my mom, or my mom for like $20-$40, my grandmother for $20.
Piece it together.
Right, just to afford, some of the name brand stuff. But, going back to the Christmas holidays, things like that, you want things for Christmas. So there were things that I'd asked him for Christmas, he said he would get for me. Christmas came and they weren't there. So that was kind of like my first experience, kind of with disappointment.
Wow. How did you invite God into that? How did that affect your faith in God? Tell me how did you navigate that? Because bro, that's huge. And how do you recover from disappointment? How do you navigate that?
I think my grandmother, she was always in the church. And so that was how I got introduced to God. I mean, in the South, they got things going on through the course of the week.
Every day of the week, you got choir rehearsal, Usher
Day, exactly.
all that stuff, Doc. Yes,
Monday
youth group,
through Friday,
Monday through
Sunday. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there was always something. And so you know, whether you wanted to go to church or not, you were going.
You were going. And
Right.
you was going to have on a button-down shirt
You're gonna
and a
look
tie.
nice.
You're
You're
going to
gonna
look
look
good.
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I like that part. I still like looking good.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's so funny, like people, sometimes I've kind of gotten a little bit lax coming
Right.
to service, but
Yeah.
I mean, I still sometimes I'll dress up and,
Yeah.
you know, just part of the culture,
Part of
kinda
how we
we
grew
grew
up.
up. And
Yeah.
so people like, man, you're dressed really, really nice.
Right.
But, you know, I see people come in, you know, shorts, you know, they're
Oh,
very
it's a different world
But I
now,
get
yeah.
it, come as you are,
Right,
whatever.
right.
But in the South, it was one of those things.
Suited and booted, baby.
Right, right.
Yeah, Sunday's best.
So that's when I was, you know, that's when I was introduced to God and faith, and I always would, like I said, I'm a product of my environment, so I would always be sitting somewhere in the house or somewhere in earshot distance if, you know, my grandmother's on the phone with her brothers and sisters, and they're always talking about church. So I would be sort of ear hustling. I really didn't have a choice.
Right, right.
But she would always be discussing, you know,
Yeah.
different things
Yeah.
on the phone.
Your drive, like even now, like we were just talking about you running these hills. You're on Instagram running up sand hills. 40, how old are you? 40?
44.
44, still cut, look like you're 19. I'm 40. I look like I could be your daddy sitting over here. I want to go run a hill right now. This is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Your drive is I think is legendary. Do you think there's a connection between the disappointment you experienced as a young boy and the drive that you have as an adult, as an athlete, your time in the NFL? Do you think that contributed and fueled your drive?
Probably so, because I think I realized that nothing.
By the way, there's somewhere, a therapist is somewhere saying, yes, duh.
Right. Nothing was ever given to me. And I always, you know, heard my grandmother say, you know, if you want to do something, you got to do it yourself. You can't expect someone else to do it for you. And so, you know, I had a similar path as Jerry Rice, who's the greatest receiver of all time. He went to a small school, Mississippi Valley State.
Yes, the SWAC.
Right.
Yes.
The difference between Jerry and I is that he always dreamed as a little kid, and his dad kind of molded him to be the receiver that he became. He had that fire to be the best receiver or want to play that position.
Wow.
Me, I considered myself an athlete. No matter whatever I did, I was going to put my best foot forward. I was going to put the best effort in. And I think that's what's so difficult about kids these days is that they don't want to put in the effort, you know. And for me, some of my message sometimes to kids, and if I can give a kid a message, anybody can do anything you want to, but effort should be effortless.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Effort should be effortless. It doesn't take much to do something.
Put in the effort.
Right, and
Yeah.
so for me, when I reflected back on the course of my career, especially within the last 6 years or so, trying to, you know, get back into the league, and just sat back and realized what I've done, understanding that I never thought I would play beyond the collegiate level.
So you never thought you'd go to the NFL?
No, never, not even, no earthly idea. The only reason I went to college because the guy, I went to UT Chattanooga. The recruiter, they came down to our school and they was recruiting the receiver on our high school team. And so
they didn't even come to look at you. They was looking at the high school.
Right, they were looking at
your teammate.
At my teammate, Derek Hall. And so I remember the recruiter's name is Bobby Johns. And he was going through the film and watching him, and he saw me make a few plays here and there. And so what really, I guess, caught their eye was really kind of, you know, the measure, the obvious was my height, you know, my size. I definitely wouldn't say that I was a speedy guy by any means, but it was something about whatever they saw where they kind of basically just added me with him. And so it's sort of like a package deal.
So like throw Terrell in.
Right. And
Yeah.
so
they almost did that with me in high school too. But I was like, I don't know. But they saw my height and my size. They was like, man, that. But I was like, no, I'm not interested. I want to go be in the choir.
Right. We see how that worked out.
Right.
So I went to UT Chattanooga. I had no earthly idea where I was going. I've done a couple of books or what have you, and in the book I basically explained to people that I thought I was going to UT Knoxville. I thought I was going to the Tennessee Vols.
So you didn't even know where you was going.
I had no idea. I knew the thing is my family couldn't afford to put me through school, and that was my only means of getting an education. And so I took, took upon the opportunity that they gave me. And really, like I said, I just thought it was just a way to get through school, and I played football. They offered me a scholarship, and my passion, my love was for basketball. So we weren't really that good in football. So out of 4 years, we played 11 games a year, so a total of 44. We only won 13 games.
Oh, wow.
And so after my freshman year, I wanted to play on the basketball team, but the coach that we had at the time, he wouldn't allow guys that if he recruited you to play football, he wouldn't allow you to play in other sports. So unfortunately for him, but fortunate for me, he got fired. The next coach came in. So again, the next year came and we still didn't make the playoffs or anything, had a terrible record, terrible season. I go into the office of the head coach and I asked him if I could walk on the basketball team. And he basically looked at me, he goes, "What do you mean?" And I'm like, "I want to try out for the basketball team." And so they had, the school had open tryouts for any of the students that, guys that want to try out as a walk-on. And so I was one of those guys, as well as Derek, who was your
teammate from high school. Yeah.
He tried out too. Nobody made it but me. So I go to say that. So I asked my coach if I could play, and he goes, "Well, that the guys that they recruit, they're recruited to play basketball, right?" And I'm like, "Yes, sir." And so he was like, "All right." He's like, "If you can make our basketball team," he goes, "that'll tell me what type of athlete you are." So there was a number of guys that tried out, and for whatever reason, I made it.
Wow. So did you end up playing basketball and football?
Mm-hmm. So I played 3 years basketball as well.
Wow.
Yep.
So you said you realized that you were good the second year.
Probably my second
college.
year. Yeah, my second year playing football. My first year, again, like I said, I didn't play very much. I was still skinny, scrawny. And then I played scout team for our number one defense throughout the course of the season. So we basically ran the offensive plays for our number one defense. So I played the receiver, obviously. And so that's where I started kind of to develop my catching skills and running routes because I wasn't playing.
Just doing scrimmage.
Right. So then I was just catching the ball left and right on our defense. And the defensive coordinator, they were getting mad because nobody could cover me. And they weren't preventing me from catching the ball.
Where's the offensive receiver coach? Why is he out there saying, "Hey, come over here and play"?
Well, I mean, they had guys that were starting. Like I said, the guy that went to high school with, he was starting.
And he was still better than you at that time?
Yeah, all these guys, they were better than me at the time.
So how in the world did you end up in the NFL? What happened?
God is good. God is good. I mean, like you said, I think always God has a path for different people.
Like your story is crazy. Like you can see, as you look back over your life, from disappointment, God strategically placing you in places and positions to advance you. Right. When you had none of the stats, nobody assumed that you would be great at any of this stuff.
No, not
even
at
the
all.
coach just go walk in, and if you can walk on, and you end up being the only guy that walks on, and you're playing scrimmage for the defensive team, catching balls, and you end up in the NFL. When does it flip? When do they come see you, and when do you start talking about the draft?
My second year, let's fast forward to my freshman year. Like I said, I got a chance to play toward the end of the season. By this time at the end of the season, we didn't have a great record, and so the coaches are starting to look toward next year.
Yeah.
So that's when they put me.
Let's put in the bench. Yeah.
Yeah. Then they put me in and gave me a chance to play. Mm-hmm. So my first game I get to play. I think we were playing in Marshall. Got my first little bit of playing time. I remember I caught a seam pass or something, and I caught the ball. The safety, somebody hit me under my shoulder pads. I break my collarbone.
Wow. So
that was like 8th or 9th game in the season. So I was like 1 or 2 games too far into the season to where I couldn't get a medical red shirt. So freshman year basically down the drain.
Gone.
So I think at that point they were looking to redshirt me, but again, like I said, they kind of put me in just to kind of see what I could do, and then, like I said, too far gone to get a medical redshirt. So going to the summer, I lift weights, do everything that the college strength and conditioning coach asked me to do. I go home for the summer, And then that's when I started to really hit the weights. I did my college workout and I did my high school workout. So I basically was doing like 2-a-days. Just
Why?
Because I needed, after what I saw and I witnessed that I wasn't getting playing time, and that's how it was in high school as well. I was always good enough to catch the coach's eye, but not good enough to play. And so it got to that point, and I was having this thing in my mind. I'm like, man, I don't want to continue to just be on the bench, be just on the team. I want to be involved. I want to be an integral part of the team.
Yeah.
I want to be one of those guys to bring people to the seats and they want to come see play.
Want to come see you play.
Right. I mean, I got to see guys, on the defensive side make big plays, interceptions, tackles. I got to see, guys on the offensive end, running back, score touchdown, make big moves.
You saw him winning and you was like, I want to be that guy.
But I'm sitting on the sideline observing.
Yeah.
This is pretty much my story. In junior high, high school, and I'm like, man, I got to do something to get to that next level.
Yeah.
So that was my motivation. Is that
not only that, Terrell, but I want to see the parallel. Because we're talking about football, but we're really talking about life.
I know, I get it.
Because at home, you were also on the sideline. In many ways, doing your thing, but no one's giving you a lot of attention in the sense of compared to other situations and other things. I just think it's something significant there.
Right.
Although it sounds like your grandmother was a loving. She sounded like my grandmama. I don't even want to know how many whoopings you got.
Oh man! Man, the way you talk about
like a hard coach ain't got nothing on a grandmama.
Man, what they talk about child abuse and
oh yeah. Oh, my grandmama would have been in jail.
What?
Been in jail.
Man, she rolling over
Bottles,
in her grave
pots,
right now.
Switches.
Man, belts.
Man, have you ever had to go pick your own switch?
What?
Oh yes. Go outside.
Some people don't even know what that means.
Oh,
to go get a switch. They was like, what?
What is a switch?
I'm
Matter of fact,
about,
we probably shouldn't even talk about it. They may call the authorities in California.
They call HR on
right.
I'm talking about switches. I'm talking about not one.
Wow.
Go get two.
Oh, no, you twist them together, swing them together. Braid it up. Yes,
oh,
yes,
man.
yes.
And I really think about this sometimes. Like, I had to go sometimes. For my sisters and brother, I had to go get a switch for them. And if it ain't big enough, you gonna get one. So if you go and let me get this little one, if that switch break, you in trouble, Jack. So how about this? So I don't even know why I would do this. Like, I would go get the switches, make sure it's nice size, braid it up, and then just you take the leaves off, but leave the little 2 or 3 leaves at the top to make it look good. I don't know why I did that. Because it's going to come off
anyway. But I think there's there's a theme with your life, and I think it's significant what you did with disappointment and how it gave you this. There's this drive that you have that had you doing a high school workout and your college stuff. And no one made it. No one expected you to do it. No one expected you to win.
Exactly.
So,
and I think, I know we're going to get to it at some point, but, we spoke about this prior to the cameras rolling, is that, there's a lot of controversy on my decision, to do my Hall of Fame speech in Chattanooga versus Canton.
Yeah.
And part of that reason is because nobody understands what I've had to endure to get and achieve what I've done, and for them to put people in position that ultimately decides my fate, that has never played the game, and the Hall of Fame try to disconnect themselves from that. I know that I have a voice, I have a platform to make a change.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of where I am.
Let's talk a little bit about that. So you go. And I got some stats here because I don't know nothing about. You remember the first time we met? I asked you what team you played for. So right. I don't know nothing about football.
Well, at that time, like I said, I don't think I was playing for any team.
No. We were talking about past times, but let's talk about the Hall of Fame deal. So, went to Tennessee.
Chattanooga.
And then
you have to specify.
Oh, Chattanooga, right. Tennessee, Chattanooga.
When you say Tennessee, people think Tennessee Vols.
Oh, got it. Well, you thought you was going.
Well, I did too.
But you was in Chattanooga and loved it. Had a great experience.
Yeah, absolutely.
Third round draft pick in 1996.
Yep, 89th pick. I did some individual workouts prior to the draft in '96, and so.
So you were the 89th pick.
Mm-hmm. And so the thing what's so crazy about this is that when I tell you, like, I really had no idea that I would play beyond the collegiate level. It didn't even register what I could do and what I was about to do. Is because the PR at the time, they didn't want me to play basketball because they were afraid that I was going to get hurt. And I'm like, what do you mean? I'm like, who's to say that I'm going to play football? It wasn't really on my radar.
You didn't think.
So they basically say, like, you have a chance. They were like, dude, you have a chance to play in the NFL. And I'm like, well, going back to my grandmother's, like, just relying on faith. And my thing was, if it's meant for me to play football, it'll happen. If it's in God's hands, I'm putting it in God's hands. If it's in the cards for me to play football. So
trust God.
Yeah, absolutely. So I didn't forego my senior year to play basketball.
You played basketball your senior year.
I played 3 years.
And they were like, boy, you're going to mess up your shot to go in the draft. And you were like, hey.
Because basketball was my passion. That was my love.
So did you realize how good you were at football?
No, I didn't. I didn't know until...
that's crazy, right? Because everyone sees you dancing in the stands,
right?
Get your popcorn, all this stuff, and you didn't even realize that you were that good.
No, I didn't. Like I said, I was inspired. I was motivated a lot from just not being as good as I wanted to be, or the coaches, assessed me to be.
Yeah.
Like I said, even on playing basketball, I mean, I was probably like that 12th, 13th, to 14th guy on the team, on the bench. I never
and
really
here you are, a future Hall of Famer, and you out there shooting jump shots and layups. They like, if you don't get out of here and go run some sprints, go run the 40.
Yep. And so I played, like I said, my senior year, I played basketball. Again, that was probably like the best time of my career in Chattanooga, is playing basketball. I mean, I got a chance.
That's crazy.
They rewarded me just for my hard work. And I think that was a testament. If I look back on my career, it really showed that, anything is possible if you put forth the effort and you really, I have something where I call the 3 Ds. That's desire, dedication, and discipline. Everybody has a desire to do or be something. But you have to, in order to get to that next level, when I assess my career based on where I've, where I've been and where I've gone, and you look at Jerry Rice and being the greatest receiver of all time.
Yeah.
My desire was there, but in order to get to that next level, there had to be dedication and there had to be discipline. And so I dedicated myself and I had to discipline myself. And discipline, what discipline is a sacrifice. I wasn't a big drinker or anything like that, but once I found a personal trainer and he kind of basically taught me how to live, worked out on, work on certain things, position specific as it relates to being a receiver, but being knowledgeable about the body and educating myself on nutrition and how to take care of my body.
Wow.
That took my game to another level.
Third round draft pick, top 3 receivers of all time, third all-time receiving touchdowns, second all-time receiving yards behind Jerry Rice, 8th all-time in receptions, played for the Niners, Eagles, Cowboys, Bills, Bengals, and the Allen Wranglers of the Indoor Football League. You get elected to the Hall of Fame, and you're the first guy to say no to speaking at the ceremony. Why would you not go after all the years of all the hard work and all the investment and give that speech at the ceremony?
I think when you look at the process and the Hall of Fame, they have a system in place. They have bylaws in place. They have criteria in which each athlete is inducted. And so when I got overlooked the first time, they brought up a lot of things as it relates to my character.
So let's go back, because they vote and they do ballots, right?
Right.
You went up, you were available, you had all the credentials
Yeah, to be a first ballot Hall of Famer.
To be a first ballot Hall of
Right.
Famer.
And I think, everybody look at the statistics, and as I mentioned, just mentioned, there's a system in place. There are bylaws in place.
Right.
There are criteria.
And you met all of those.
I met all of those.
So why didn't you get voted in on the first ballot?
Things in which they overlooked my body of work, they overlooked my accomplishments, and they created this narrative that was created by the media that I had character issues. I've never been involved with any criminal activity, no domestic violence, no nothing.
And there are guys who've been voted in with all of those things that you mentioned.
All of those things.
Never done any of those things. But then you were given an opportunity, a second ballot.
Right, so the second year comes along. So I'm like, okay, if that's what you guys want to, if that's the story that you want to tell, is that I had some issues, or I had some arguments with some teammates, or some coaches or some players said that I was a bad teammate. First of all, no player has ever come out and said that I was a bad teammate. There's been a long list of guys that have come out and said, no, I was nothing but a great teammate. But understanding media over the course of my career, understanding what they've done, is that they've defamed my character, and this is the narrative that they've gone with, that I was a bad teammate.
Yeah.
And so that's something that I feel like I will always defend, is my character and my name.
Yeah.
And so again, basically they've lied on who they think I am as a person based on media portrayal.
So people, I think, people think that this is a decision that, I don't know if they think you made it lightly, or that you didn't think about it, or you didn't process it.
No,
what I think is profound, and what I don't think people realize, is the day before, minutes before, you made the call to them to tell them that you weren't coming to the ceremony. You called me on the phone.
Right.
For us to pray together.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that's the stuff about your heart that people don't see. It was such a burden on you. It was such a big decision. Right. You said, I want to pray. And I remember your words so clearly, because I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know the Hall of I was
Every
like,
time I call you,
happening?
You're in the airport.
Right.
You're traveling. So.
But we got on the phone, and you were like, man, I just want is it the commissioner, or who is it?
The president of the Hall of Fame.
The president of the Hall of Fame. He was about to call you, and you just said, I want him to hear my heart.
Right.
I don't want him to think that I'm being disrespectful. I don't want him to think that I think I'm above it. But really, at the core, what I heard you saying is that I feel like I've been disrespected in a deep way, right. And I really want to share this moment with people who've believed in me, right. And who supported me authentically. And you would almost feel hypocritical to be standing there in Canton, knowing that many of those guys haven't supported you, or haven't believed in you, right. Or haven't gotten your heart. You've been misread.
Yeah, and as you said, I mean, David, he's the president. And like I said, I went back, I went to Canton along with Brian Urlacher and Brian Dawkins, who was a teammate of mine in Philadelphia. And we sat in a room for like 45 minutes to an hour. And that's where he basically told us and expressed to us kind of what the Hall of Fame represented, what Canton represented, what the Hall of Famers meant. He gave us the mission statement surrounding the Hall of Fame. He gave us the vision in which the Hall of Fame was established. And so I sat there in that room, and I was very hesitant to go, but a friend of mine encouraged me to go. He goes, man, you're making a mistake. He said, you may have a change of heart, because the decision, like I said, is unprecedented, and nobody's ever done it. And it's not something that I'm doing to say I'm the first to ever do it, but I'm like, okay, like I said, I felt more disrespected as it relates to my body of work and my accomplishment, as these guys, the Hall of Fame appointed, they overlooked. And that was really the message that I want to get across to a lot of people, is that the Hall of Fame, I mentioned to David, I'm like, I felt disrespected, and his response was, we as the Hall of Fame, we don't have a vote. He said, the Hall of Famers, they don't have a vote. And so I said, well, David, I have a problem with that, because I listened for an hour with my other inductees, my other classmates, and I said, everything that you said that the Hall of Fame represents, you guys are the ones that appoint these writers. That is never, they haven't played the game not once. They don't understand the blood and sweat and tears that have gone into my craft other guys' craft, the past, the present, and the future of the game. And so I said, that's why I'm declining my invitation, because there's a disconnect, because those guys that you appoint as writers that ultimately decide the fate of guys that are being nominated, inducted into the Hall of Fame, they should be in alignment, and they should adhere to those same values that you mentioned in that room.
Yeah. You know what I see, man, as a personal friend and as your pastor, what brings me joy is that you're fighting for you. And I think about the 12-year-old kid that experienced that disappointment.
Absolutely.
I think about you having the criteria and doing the work, but not getting on the ballot twice. And I see that 12-year-old kid now saying, you know what? I'm going to get people that love me. I'm going to get people that believed in me. And we're going to celebrate and party with people that get who I am and who I'm trying to be, in that respect, and understand my craft and my drive and me. And I feel like it's a culmination of what God has been doing in your life throughout your whole journey, moving you from disappointment to now the fruit of desire, dedication, and discipline.
Yeah, and as an adolescent, as a teenager, I was picked on, I was teased. These are things that I endured that I never really talked about. You know what I mean? I grew up in the projects. I know what it's like to be on welfare, things of that nature.
Because T.O., all we see by and large is just you turning up on the field.
Well, I mean, that's what media does. I mean, that's what they do. They highlight.
But to be fair, you were one of the best turn-up kings on the field in the history of football. Like, you knew how to party on the field, and it inspired people. It rubbed people the wrong way, and he's arrogant, but I feel like...
And there's a difference between arrogance and confidence.
Especially when you hear you didn't even believe that you was good. You didn't even know you was going to be there. You was probably just out there shocked as everybody else when you was catching the ball and out there dancing. It's like, whoa! God gave me these big old hands for a reason.
I mean, everything kind of just unfolded, kind of before my eyes, and I just took advantage of every opportunity that was given to me, and so I just tried to maximize and make the most of it.
Yeah, Terrell, you still look good. Your hands are still. I mean, you got some massive hands, Doctor. You should do a bust of your hands.
I know, right?
Forget the bust of the head. Right. Man, you still, I heard you talking about playing in Canada.
There's rumors. Like I said, Julio Jones, who plays with the Atlanta Falcons now, he reached out to me probably maybe about a couple of months ago, and he said that he was going to be working out, and like I said, he's from Alabama. I'm from Alabama. He went to University of Alabama, and so he reached out and said he wanted to train. And so, a lot of people have asked me about being personal trainer. I'm pretty sure I could probably charge and things of that nature to do it, do fitness stuff. But again, I've always given back, and I never really understood the impact that I've made throughout the course of my career until, again, working out independently over the last 5 to 6 years, working out with guys during the course of the summer. Yeah. And that was when I realized, like, man, I really made an impact on our youth. Yeah. And I've inspired guys.
Because these guys are calling you saying, T.O., help me out.
And and not just Julio, but I mean, even guys in high school, in college, even guys that have played in the CFL or what have you.
And you're not standing on the sideline with a whistle. You out there working out with these guys.
Right.
Probably wearing them out a little bit.
Absolutely. So, I love it. I still can do it.
Yeah.
And again, that's what's so unfortunate about my career is that I wasn't able to walk away from the game on my own terms. And, we mentioned the character things, and that's how the media has portrayed me, as if I really had issues. Yeah. There's a number of guys that have had arguments, disagreements with either their teammates, coaches, or what have you. But for whatever reason, it was magnified. Yeah. And like I said, I know I'll be the first to say if I was a bad teammate or not. Yeah. But the storyline out there that I'm a bad teammate, that's just totally false. It's untrue. Yeah. And that's what these writers used to prevent me from getting in, not the first time, but the second time as well. And then obviously Randy goes up, and Randy's a good friend of mine. When you talk about antics and things of that nature, everybody has mentioned some of the things that he's done compared to what I've done, but he gets in on the first time and it took me 3 times.
Yeah.
So that tells you that there's a flawed system there.
Yeah.
And so again, like I said, nothing against Randy at all. We kind of motivated each other from afar because we played during the same era. So we talked when we made the Hall of Fame, and we've expressed how we admired each other from afar, and we kind of kept tabs on each other. So we competed.
Yeah.
And people now, they think that we had beef, but we never did. I mean, I never really knew him to have beef.
Yeah. And y'all too big to be having beef between y'all. That's some scary beef.
But I mean, it's we both used our abilities and what we did on the football as motivation and inspiration to kind of one up each other. So I mean, talking to him, it was refreshing that he would check the highlights and see what I did, and he would try to go out and do better than that.
Wow.
And so, like I said, I never really thought too much of it.
Yeah.
Jerry, I played with the greatest receiver of all time. So I watched him. I sat in locker was right next to him.
Wow.
Coming out of college, like I said, I never even thought I was going to be playing beyond the collegiate level. And so there was a magazine that came out, and it had me and Jerry Rice on both pages, big pictures, and the top of the title was Diamond in the Rough. And so again, like I said, we have some eerily similar paths.
A lot of parallels. Man, according to those diamonds in your ears, they ain't in the rough no more, brother. The diamonds are cleaned off. What do you want your legacy to be, man? What do you want to be remembered for, T.O.?
I think now, man, it's me just really standing up for what I believe in. And I know I went to a service a couple of weeks ago, and the guy was talking about comfort and convictions.
Yeah.
And I think that's where I am right now. I'm comfortable in my skin. I'm comfortable with the decision that I've made.
Yeah.
I think you said it. You couldn't have said it any better.
Yeah.
This is where I know I feel I'm very much so respected.
Yeah.
I'm well loved.
Yeah.
And I'm not a political guy.
Yeah.
I mean, I could have easily probably set my pride aside and just go there just for the heck of it.
Make everybody comfortable.
Right,
yeah.
but I know me personally, I wasn't going to be happy there.
Yeah.
And so I'm not a phony person. I think anybody that knows me, they know I'm not that way. I'm kind of an open book, but kind of hard to read, so to speak.
Well, man, I think, T.O., with the disappointments you've had in your life that you've been vulnerable about, with that kind of disappointment, you deserve to be celebrated in a way that's meaningful for you.
Absolutely, and again, a lot of people, like I said, I listen. We as athletes, I mean, I know we're like, oh, we don't pay attention to the media, blah blah blah, but we do.
I know you pay attention, Doc.
Yeah, just like LeBron has said it. But you'll see him or athletes respond to certain people or what have you in some subtle ways.
Yeah.
But I've been the same way. And I think for me, this is a way of me really giving back and thanking the people that helped me get me where I am today. And so a lot of people, I've heard a lot of the dialogue about, I should use Canton's platform, that stage, to basically tell all the haters and the critics and the naysayers, where to go or whatever the case may be. But I'm like, Roland Martin texted me. He was like, man, you need to speak power to truth or what have you. You need to be on that stage to say what you want to say. And I told him, my response was, I'm gonna be on the stage. It's just not gonna be on their stage. And so again, I'm using this, obviously, the platform that I have, and we're in an era now where sometimes, over the course of the years, we've been silenced.
Yeah.
And a lot of people have been afraid to voice and stand up for themselves.
Yeah.
Even as a kid, there was a point in time where I was afraid. I was scared to stand up for myself. And now I'm in a position of power. I know I can reach a number of people.
You can stand up and speak for yourself.
Exactly. And
voice.
this will be the moment where, again, unbeknownst to them, that I will be able to thank, and acknowledge the people that have helped me get me to where I am. And like I said, I didn't get where I am by myself.
Yeah.
And I understand that.
That's good. Man, we do a little something that we call Question of the Day. You know, we do this at the church. And it's a fire rapid round. Last row, I just want to ask you some questions. And you just got to answer. Some of them are deep, some of them are lightweight, you know what I mean? So get ready. Quick questions, you know what I mean? You're a preacher, you can talk a long time. So just quick little question, all right? Quick answer.
Okay.
You ready?
All right.
If you could join any musical ensemble in history, which would it be?
Ensemble?
Any musical band?
New Edition.
New Edition. Every Little Step.
Every little step I take.
Oh, you will be there. All right, okay. None of this Kiki. Do you love? No, not that. Oh, you got it right. All right, okay. What's something that everyone else loves that you think is overrated?
That everybody loves that's overrated.
You know, there are people that are watching and will say T.O. But
what I say that people love that's overrated.
yeah, like people are all about it, and you're like, I don't see what the big deal is.
Probably soccer.
Soccer? As if you don't have enough enemies.
I'm just saying.
The World Cup just happened.
I know, but I don't. Yeah, but
I totally feel you. It's hard. It's like I don't get it.
I understand that it's over in Europe, like the culture of soccer, it's huge.
Yeah.
It's just like American football over there.
Right.
And our American football is like it is over there.
Yeah, yeah.
But
you just don't get it.
I don't get it. I don't.
Yeah.
Not that I don't dislike it.
You respect it. I know. You ain't got to try to clean it all up.
Don't hate me. I'm just saying.
Oh, they gonna hate you because they love to hate you, but it's all good. What other profession would you consider pursuing if you weren't
basketball?
Basketball.
Yeah.
You weren't good enough, T.O. Accept it.
No, I was good enough. I just
NBA did not call you.
They didn't.
Them hands are too big.
But I can play.
You still got it, huh?
I can play.
And you also, your drive is you're gonna be 70 years old running heels talking about.
My thing is, if I would have been given the same opportunity to play basketball, I probably would have been as successful because.
Oh Lord,
you
athletes, y'all are so competitive.
But you know why I say that? Because I already have a passion to play the game.
You had a passion, so
right. So just think if like
you brought
Jerry,
the skill to the passion.
Right.
Yeah.
So this was something that was totally unexpected for me, that I developed a love and
you heard it, folks. He would have been in the NBA doing this thing.
I probably would have.
And you believe it. But
no doubt.
That's what gives you the drive. That's what makes you T.O. What's something that you're bummed that you're still bad at? Like, man, I'm mad I'm still bad at that. You can say basketball.
No, I'm not going to say that. Probably communication.
Communication?
Yeah, I'm working on it. And, having, I wasn't in I've only had like 2 to 3 real relationships, but my last 2, it was very indicative on what I lacked and what I should be doing.
Yeah.
Especially the last relationship.
In the communication.
And that was communication. And again, it all goes back to how I was raised, my product of my environment, because my grandmother didn't allow us to do anything. So we basically just sat in the house.
Did you apologize to her for not being able to communicate well this last relationship?
No, but we discussed it. And I think she realized.
Look at your camera and tell her you're sorry.
Carrie, first of all.
Whoa, I wanted to say, I wasn't going to say no names.
No, I'm just, first of all, I say, Carrie, congratulations on your marriage. But I apologize for my lack of communication. It's really not my fault.
Okay. I didn't know you gonna say a name. Hey, Carrie, congrats. It's all good. All right. We go.
You have to be, in order to move on, you can't harbor any hard
You're right.
feelings.
You're right.
I'm happy for her.
It's all good. Hey, you just helped the ratings of my podcast. I think this is great.
Yeah, you've helped me tremendously.
We're working out. Okay. What is something that you used to say that you don't say anymore?
Something I used to say, don't say anymore.
You still kind of say everything.
I don't know. That's a good question. Something I used to say that I don't say anymore.
Hey, the other answer was so good, I'll skip that one.
I don't know.
It was so good on the other one. All right, here's a good one. What's something that you pray about a lot, but you don't talk about a lot? So you pray about this often, but you don't talk about it often.
Probably being more family oriented. Again, understanding how I grew up and not being as close when I was younger, but obviously having a better relationship with my family and my kids.
Yeah. No, that's good. That's really good. When was the last time you had to say I'm sorry?
Not too long ago. I mean, I realize now that you have to be able to be accountable for your actions.
Yeah.
And there comes times where if you do something wrong or if you hurt someone's feeling, even if it's not intentional, you make someone feel a certain way, then it's okay to say I'm sorry.
I think you're ready for that next relationship, bro. Listen at you. That sounds like you working some stuff out.
It's a growth.
It's a growth
process.
Yeah.
It's a maturation process.
Here's a good one for you. What is something that is often most misunderstood about you?
Probably that I'm arrogant, I'm cocky. And again, like I said, people only know me based on what they've heard or what they've read. I think, a lot of people, once they've sat down and they've talked to me, over 20 to 30 minutes, and I get it all the time. I've even walked into business meetings and people are blown away because they expect something based on what they've heard or they've seen on the football, like highlights or clips or what have you.
Yeah.
Outside of those lines, when I'm not in competition mode or competitiveness, I'm pretty reserved, kind of just, I'm really laid back, and that's always been my nature.
Not arrogant or cocky, but you are confident.
Very confident.
If you don't walk around with shoes with your name on it, you got to be confident.
Well, yeah, and I think I understand the difference between being cocky and confident. I mean, I've been around guys that people think the world of, and they're cocky.
Yeah.
But they don't get that based on how the media, portray them. So
I heard that you, speaking of confident but not being arrogant, I heard you sent a gift to your other inductees, your fellow, what do you call it, classmates?
My classmate. I sent all of them a pair of custom shoes. I reached out to a guy. He reached out to me rather, and he does this artwork on the shoes. And so I asked him if he would, make a pair of shoes for all my my fellow inductees.
That's classy, yo. So that's pretty classy.
So they came out pretty good.
That's nice. That's nice. Last question. What's your favorite cuss word?
I very seldom curse.
Because you're a good Christian. You go to a good church. You got a good pastor.
It's so
you're
funny.
A good, godly
people
man.
recognize, like, even if I'm on a basketball court, I'll say fudge.
Whoa, you
fudge.
just made me nervous.
I was like, fudge.
We'll take it.
But like I said, every now and then, it'll be some words to slip out, but nothing major.
Fudge.
Nothing major.
He's a class act. Ladies and gentlemen, T.O. Thanks, Terrell, for